In 1914, a young man named Gavrilo Princip fired 2 shots that killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand, setting off World War I and altering the course of history forever. But what drove him wasn't just nationalism or personal grievance. Behind his trigger finger were ideas and philosophies that had been circulating in European minds for decades. Ideas have always been among humanity's most powerful forces, capable of toppling empires, sparking revolutions, and reshaping civilizations. Throughout history, 3 thinkers stand out for their profound influence on both creation and conflict. Niccolò Machiavelli, whose pragmatic approach to power redefined leadership. Karl Marx, whose vision of class struggle inspired movements across continents. And Friedrich Nietzsche, whose radical philosophy was often misinterpreted into supporting ideologies far removed from his original intent. Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513, not as a manual for tyrants, but as an attempt to unify a fractured Italy. His central insight, that effective leadership sometimes requires difficult moral decisions, became a guidebook for rulers worldwide. He argued that a leader must be both cunning and strong, willing to use strategy and persuasion to achieve stability and protect the state. This philosophy spread quickly through European courts. Catherine the Great reportedly kept The Prince on her bedside table, while Napoleon annotated his copy extensively. Yet Machiavelli's ideas also carried a darker potential. By separating politics from conventional morality, his work offered justification for leaders who claimed harsh actions were necessary for the greater good. The idea that the ends could justify the means became a tool both for effective governance and, in the wrong hands, for manipulation and control. Stalin reportedly kept copies of Machiavelli's works in his library. Hitler's propaganda chief, Joseph Goebbels, drew on Machiavellian tactics. What was intended as guidance for practical leadership sometimes became a blueprint for authoritarian control. Machiavelli showed that even ideas rooted in practicality could be reshaped into instruments of oppression. Marx, on the other hand, introduced a different kind of transformative idea. The belief that history is shaped by economic conflict and that the struggle between classes could eventually create a fairer society. His analysis of capitalism's inequalities was remarkably accurate, predicting many modern economic trends and the challenges faced by workers. Yet Marx's writings also became revolutionary fuel. The Communist Manifesto wasn't just theory, it was a call to action. The Russian Revolution of 1917, led by Lenin and the Bolsheviks, explicitly embraced Marxist principles. Over time, however, regimes claiming to follow Marx's vision sometimes betrayed his human-centered ideals, producing oppressive systems rather than the liberation he envisioned. From the Soviet Union to China to Cambodia, rulers used the rhetoric of class struggle to justify harsh policies. The irony is that Marx's sharp critique of inequality inspired both genuine movements for social justice and authoritarian regimes that exploited his ideas for control. His work demonstrates how a single powerful idea can be interpreted in wildly different ways, with consequences that its author could never have predicted. Nietzsche presents perhaps the most complex case. He challenged traditional moral systems and encouraged individuals to create their own values, envisioning what he called the Übermensch, or overman. His philosophy emphasized personal growth, creativity, and the rejection of blind adherence to society's rules. Importantly, Nietzsche was critical of nationalism and prejudice, calling out anti-Semitism and narrow-minded patriotism. Yet after his death, his writings were misrepresented. Selective quotations about strength and power were used by movements that ignored his core messages of individuality and artistic achievement. What was meant as guidance for personal growth became distorted into support for collective agendas, with tragic consequences. These examples reveal a crucial truth. The impact of ideas depends as much on how they are interpreted as on their original content. Machiavelli's insights guided both effective and oppressive leaders. Marx's critique of inequality inspired liberation and authoritarianism alike. Nietzsche's philosophy of self-overcoming was twisted into ideological justifications that betrayed his intent. The key takeaway isn't that these thinkers were bad or that their work should be ignored. Rather, it's that powerful ideas require careful consideration. They can uplift societies, inspire progress, or be misused to justify control and oppression. Understanding how ideas travel from thought to action is essential for anyone trying to make sense of history and for shaping the future responsibly. Even today, the legacy of these thinkers can be felt. In politics, business, and culture, ideas are still repurposed, simplified, and sometimes weaponized. By studying how influential philosophies were applied and misapplied, we can become more aware of how ideas shape our world and more cautious about how we use them in our own lives. But it's not just the famous thinkers who shape the world. Ideas spread through ordinary people, everyday conversations, and social movements. Viral slogans, popular philosophies, and trending ideologies can all influence behavior on a massive scale. Social media has amplified this effect, allowing ideas to reach millions instantly, often stripped of nuance. The modern age shows that the potential for misinterpretation is greater than ever, making critical thinking a vital skill for everyone. Moreover, ideas have the power to shape identity and culture. They influence what societies value, how communities govern themselves, and what people see as possible. Educational systems, media, and art all play roles in transmitting these concepts, consciously or unconsciously. When ideas are misunderstood or simplified, their impact can ripple across generations, creating patterns that are difficult to reverse. Interestingly, some of the most transformative ideas were originally intended as tools for personal growth rather than mass movements. Nietzsche's call to self-overcoming or Machiavelli's lessons on practical leadership were meant to guide individuals in navigating life and responsibility. Yet history shows that ideas are rarely contained. They escape, mutate, and sometimes take on lives of their own. This unpredictability is what makes studying intellectual history so compelling. History also shows us that ideas are rarely neutral. They interact with human ambition, fear, and hope. Even the noblest concept can be twisted when combined with power or desperation. Leaders, movements, and ordinary people all filter ideas through their own biases and circumstances. What one person sees as a blueprint for progress, another might interpret as justification for control or aggression. This dual nature of ideas makes them both exhilarating and dangerous, and it's a dynamic we continue to witness in modern politics, technology, and global culture. In the digital age, ideas travel faster than ever. Memes, viral videos, and online debates can spread concepts in minutes that once took decades to circulate. This instant access can educate, unite, or inspire people, but it also makes misinterpretation and manipulation easier. Social media algorithms reward simplicity and shock value, often amplifying distorted versions of complex philosophies. Understanding the history of ideas and how they can be misused helps us navigate this flood of information with greater awareness and discernment. Ultimately, the story of Machiavelli, Marx, and Nietzsche is a story about responsibility. Ideas shape the world, but they need interpreters who are thoughtful, reflective, and ethical. We cannot control how every person will apply a philosophy, but we can engage with ideas deeply and critically, teaching future generations to appreciate nuance over slogans. By doing so, we honor the true potential of these thinkers, not as tools for power or oppression, but as catalysts for insight, creativity, and meaningful action. Finally, exploring these thinkers reminds us that ideas are living forces. They demand engagement, reflection, and responsibility. Every new interpretation carries the potential for both innovation and harm. By learning from history, we can aim to apply ideas thoughtfully, ensuring that the knowledge passed down enriches humanity rather than undermining it. Philosophy, in this sense, becomes not just theory, but a roadmap for understanding ourselves and shaping a more conscious world. If this exploration of history's most powerful ideas intrigued you, share this video with others curious about how philosophy shapes events, like this video. If it gave you a new perspective, and subscribe for more deep dives into the concepts that have shaped human history.